If you are staring at Social Security and thinking, do I claim at 62 or do I wait until 70? I totally get it. That's because that question gets treated like the Super Bowl of retirement planning minus the chicken wings and joy. But if I were in that spot, it is not the question I would start with. The better question is this: what do I need this Social Security check to do? This is not a trivia question. This is the check that may help keep the lights on. It may help cover groceries, property taxes, prescriptions, the electric bill, or the gap between I'm done working and I can afford to stop. So before we argue over 62 or 70 like two accountants fighting over the last parking spot, let's figure out what this money is supposed to solve. So when someone says, just claim early or just wait until 70, my eyebrow goes up. That little word just is usually where the trouble starts. It is like buying a ladder before you know whether the problem is the roof or the basement. One household may need that check to help pay bills right now. Another may need it to protect a spouse later. Someone else may need it so they do not pull too much from investments during a bad market. And plenty of folks just want enough breathing room to sleep at night without another money decision tapping them on the shoulder. Those are very different purposes, and that is why the age alone can mislead you. The ages matter, but they do not make the decision for you. Age 62 is generally the earliest age for regular Social Security retirement benefits, but claiming then usually means a smaller monthly check. Full retirement age depends on your birth year, so it is worth checking your own number before you claim. If you wait past full retirement age, your monthly benefit can grow through delayed retirement credits up until age 70. After 70, the growth generally stops. Waiting longer usually does not make the check bigger. That is the basic map. Useful? Yes. Exciting? No. Try to remain seated. Keep in mind, the map is not the decision. The same age can mean two very different things. One person claims at 62 because they lost a job, have limited savings, and need income to keep the household steady. Another person claims at 62 because fear took over before they had a chance to look at the whole plan. Same age, different purpose. That is where the usual advice gets too simple. One camp says, claim early. Another says, wait until 70. Then some spreadsheet Einstein shows up and says, just run the break-even. That means finding the age when waiting may start to pay off. Fine. Break-even math has its place. But it cannot tell you everything that matters. Your spouse, your taxes, your investments, your work income, your health, or what happens if the market drops right after you retire. And yes, markets have a rude habit of dropping at the worst possible time. So instead of asking, what is the best age, I would start with, what do I need this check to do? There are 5 common purposes. I'm going to count them down, starting with the technical stuff first. Then we'll work our way toward the real-life pressure point, where the decision gets most personal. Numbers 5 and 4 are not glamorous. Taxes and rules rarely are. But stick with me. The next 3 are where the calculator starts running into real life, and real life usually wins. Let's start with purpose number 5, managing taxes and investments. I know, taxes and investments, 2 words that make people think, I'd rather watch paint dry. But stay with me, because this is where Social Security stops being just a monthly check and starts affecting the rest of your money. Before choosing an age, I would want to know how claiming now could affect my taxes and my investment withdrawals. Retirement income is like laundry. It does not stay in one neat pile. Eventually, everything gets mixed together, and somehow the tax code is always the sock that disappears. Money from IRAs, 401k accounts, Social Security taxes, and future required withdrawals can all push taxable income higher. For some households, the years before Social Security and required withdrawals may create a planning window. Also, Roth conversions may be worth a look, or they may not. The tax details matter. The broad idea is simple. Claiming early may mean taking less money from investments now, but it can also lock in a smaller Social Security check later. Delaying a claim may increase the future check, but the bridge years still have to be paid for. That is the trade-off. So essentially, there is no free lunch in retirement. The bill just shows up in a different envelope. Now let's move on to purpose number 4, avoiding rule traps. This is where most people lose the plot. Getting the check sounds simple. The rules around the check are not. If you are still working near Medicare age or not completely sure your plans are settled, claiming is not just an age decision anymore. This is where the simple answer can get tripped up by the fine print. Fine print is where simple plans go to develop a limp. A common trap is claiming before full retirement age while still working. In plain English, if you claim early and keep working, earning too much can cause Social Security to hold back some benefits. Work is not the problem. Timing is. One more age trap. Medicare generally begins at 65 for most people, but that is not the same as Social Security full retirement age. So the rule trap question is simple. Am I still working, close to Medicare age, or likely to go back to work after I claim? If the answer is yes, I would want to understand the rules before I make a claim. If numbers 5 and 4 are the technical side, number 3 is where this gets more personal, because now we are talking about protecting your spouse. For couples, the claiming decision is not always just about the first person getting the check. Sometimes it is about how much income is left if one spouse dies first. That is not a fun thing to think about, but it is an important part of the household plan. For married couples, especially when one person earned more, the claiming decision can affect the survivor benefit and sometimes leave more income for the surviving spouse. Simple Social Security advice often skips this part. It treats the decision like one person sitting alone with a calculator, nice and tidy, also not how real households work. Real households are messier than that. Different ages, different health, different earnings records, and different spending needs all come into play. So if I were looking at this as a couple, I would ask it plainly. If I claim now, how could that affect household income later, especially for the surviving spouse? It's not a fun question to ask, but it is better to ask it calmly now than leave the surviving spouse with a painful surprise later. And once we talk about protecting someone else, we have to talk about protecting future you. That is purpose number 2. What happens if you live a long time? This is about having a bigger monthly check if retirement lasts longer than expected. In plain English, this is where patience can actually pay you back. Waiting to claim Social Security can increase the monthly check up to age 70. And that can matter because retirement is not just the first 5 years when weekday grocery shopping still feels like freedom because it can last 20, 25, 30 years or more. Some early claiming arguments focus on getting paid sooner. Fair enough. But getting paid sooner is not the same as being protected later. Waiting is not magic, though. If you delay until 70, the bills still need a place to go. They do not see your claiming strategy and politely leave the mailbox. That money has to come from somewhere, like savings, part-time work, a pension, a spouse's income, or a retirement account. Or maybe it comes from cash savings if there is enough set aside. Either way, the waiting years have to be paid for. The long life question is not just, can I get a bigger check later? But rather, can I afford to wait without putting too much pressure on the rest of the plan? And now we get to number 1, paying bills now. This is where the kitchen table beats the calculator. This is the one people judge way too quickly. If someone is 62 and needs income, that is not weakness. That is life showing up with an invoice. Maybe they were laid off, or their body just does not cooperate like it used to. Maybe the company reorganized, which rarely feels as polite as it sounds. Or maybe their retirement account is not big enough to pay the bills until 70 without taking too much risk. In that case, claiming early may be about keeping the lights on, avoiding debt, or giving the household some breathing room. If I were in that spot, I would not let a spreadsheet make me feel bad for needing money to pay bills. Spreadsheets are useful, but they have never had to choose between the electric bill and the pharmacy counter. Still, I would want to know what that choice costs later. Claiming before full retirement age usually means a smaller monthly benefit, and that reduction can last for life. So the bill-paying question is simple. Do I need the money now badly enough to accept a smaller check later? That is where math meets real life. Now bring those 5 purposes together, and the real lesson is simple. Every claiming age solves one problem and creates another. Retirement decisions are like old house repairs. Fix one leak and another pipe starts dripping in the hallway. For example, claiming at 62 may help pay bills now, but it can mean accepting a smaller check later. On the other hand, waiting until 70 may build a stronger future check, but the waiting years still need funding. Then there is work income. If someone claims while still working, the earnings rules can come into the picture. And for couples, delaying to protect a spouse may help the household later, but only if the plan can carry the load now. So the real question is not which age wins. The real question is, what problem am I trying to protect against? That is the Social Security claiming question most people skip. Different problem, different purpose, different claiming age. That is why 2 people can both claim at 62, and one made a reasonable decision while the other was reacting to fear before seeing the whole picture. And 2 people can both wait until 70. One had a plan to cover the years before 70. The other waited because the calculator said it was best, but the budget got too tight along the way. Calculators are tools. They are not crystal balls. The point of this framework is not to find a perfect age. It is to see the trade-off before you make a decision that may be hard to undo. So before I let 62 or 70 boss me around, I would ask 5 questions. Not 50, just 5. Enough to be useful, not enough to ruin your mood. First, what happens if I claim now? Does it help pay bills, lower the stress, or help avoid debt? Or is fear rushing the decision? Second, what happens if I wait? Can the household pay the bills while waiting without putting too much pressure on the rest of the plan? Third, who else is affected? If a spouse, ex-spouse, surviving spouse, or dependent benefit is involved, the claiming age may affect more than one person. Fourth, what rules or taxes get triggered? In plain English, what could change my check, my taxes, or my health coverage? Look at work income, taxes on Social Security, Medicare timing, and future required withdrawals. None of that has to be scary, but it does have to be noticed. And then comes the biggest question: which challenge matters most right now? Once that challenge is clear, the claiming age starts making more sense. That is why I would not make the decision based on one blanket rule like always claim early or always wait until 70. And just to be clear, I am not saying always claim at 62. I am not saying always wait until 70. This is where I would get honest about the household, the health, the bills, and what the next few years may actually look like. The best Social Security claiming age is not the age that sounds smartest online. It is the age that fits what you need Social Security to do in your retirement plan. That's exactly why I would decide what the check needs to do before I decide when to claim it. If I were getting close to claiming, I would not start by asking, should I claim at 62 or 70? I would start with the better question. What am I trying to protect? That question will not make Social Security simple. Let us not get carried away. This is still Social Security. Simple left the building a long time ago. Still, asking the better question can make the decision clearer, and in retirement, clear usually beats clever. Clever looks nice in a spreadsheet. Clear helps you sleep. If this helped you stop treating Social Security like a casino button with a government logo on it, subscribe. Around here, we talk retirement with fewer fireworks and more useful math. Not glamorous, but neither is running out of money.